everybody, he's Dave Pensado. I'm Herb Charlock. Our guest this week is Grammy Award Winning Producer Harmony Samuels. And as always, like and subscribe and click notify if you would. But first, we got a couple things for you. Want to shout out super producer Dave Cobb, a good friend of the family. Saw him at the Chris Stapleton concert where he is on tour playing guitar and was absolutely killing it. And I got to give much respect to Chris, who closed his show. The forum was packed, completely full, with a tribute to Aretha Franklin, who just passed away, as you know. Chris said Aretha was the greatest singer he had ever heard. He rocked a countrified version of Do Right Woman, and the whole forum was singing it, and it was a pretty awesome thing to see. So thanks, Leslie Lewis, for that, and you can actually look it up online. It's pretty powerful. 2 educational opportunities you don't want to miss. First one is TRAPMONEYBENNY's workshop at the 1500 Sound Academy on September 1st. He'll compare FL Studios to Ableton, how to utilize both, looping, velocity, shortcuts, swing, the whole nine. It's September 1st from 4 to 7 o'clock p.m. Head to 1500 Sound Academy. That's 1500sound.academy to sign up. Tell them you heard it from Pensado's Place. And the other thing you want to know about is the incredible Blackbird Academy. They have live classes open in October and January. There are great careers to be had in the live business, and the Blackbird Academy is where you want to go to learn and get placed. They have an incredible placement service. A lot of those folks are working all over the world. How do you do it? Email carma at theblackbirdacademy.com or go to theblackbirdacademy.com. Get some information, find out, and sign in. And we're also happy to welcome to Pensado's Place Eventide. We add them to our other friends at Avid and Warm Audio, Westlake Pro, Sonarworks, and a whole bunch more. We're going to have some fun with them, and you're going to be the beneficiary of that. A great company and great people. So, Dave, before the ITL, any thoughts on Aretha Franklin?
Well, I mean, she brought her gift into the world and made it a better place and changed how we think about music. And when she left, she took some of that with her.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting to hear, I would say 3 things. One is quite possibly the greatest singer ever.
I think she is.
It's hard to say who would pass that up.
Yeah, greatest entertainer ever, too.
Secondly, I was going to say what people don't focus on as much is the incredible ability to play piano. She was an unbelievable piano player. And she also was an activist in ways that people don't know. Lots of things that happened in the civil rights movement and so on and so forth. Oftentimes, she was paying for payroll and doing things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know. And she was first and foremost. So, rest in peace, job well done. And this week's ITL?
Well, we know how important the kick drum is in music, and I've got some new techniques for you. Check it out. A lot of you are familiar with Kick 2. It's a synthesizer for kick drums, and you can probably use it for snares too. And then some of the attacks in there I really like. Now, why is it on the screen? Because I'm going to take you from the beginning. What I do is sometimes, and I'll play this kick for you in a minute, sometimes I want a little bit of enhancement for an existing kick drum sound. I don't want to change the sound. I want to augment it and implement it with a sample sometimes. But in this case, I couldn't get the sample to do what I wanted, so I went to Kick 2. Now, it runs on MIDI, so it's triggered by MIDI. So my favorite is the Massey DRT. And everything Massey makes is spectacular. Stephen Massey's brilliant. And so this isn't the actual setting, I'm just showing you this, but it's almost an instantaneous triggering effect that you can drag down to your instrument track here. And then on this instrument track, we have Kick 2. Now, this is a setting that I came up with the help of one of my assistants. And let's check it without it. So now we've got the original kick here. Not bad, not bad. And as you can see, I'm paralleling with it. Now, what I did here was I tried to emulate the 160 XT. So copy these settings. The reason that it's hard to emulate is because the ratio changes with different threshold inputs. So as you cross the threshold, at one level, the ratio is one level, and on and on and on and on. So I tried to emulate that, and I think I did a pretty good job. Then this is just your standard, Pultec thing. Now, let's hear what we got. I'm gonna add my trigger. That gives me a little mids. Now check this guy out. And if you've got headphones on or big speakers, you can hear a lot of low end. Hear that nice sweet low end? And always remember, tune it to the track. My experience has been this is the most important part to have in tune, because as this decays from here to here is really important, because that's where your ear locks into the sound the most. And then you can affect the attack. So this is a section that sometimes I just use by itself. This is where the attack is. Now I had the attack muted here, and let me show you with the attack. So let's add all that into our sound. So you see, you can do a lot with this guy, and there's a bit of a learning curve to it, but and I don't know every single part of it, but it gives you a lot of freedom to tailor a sound to go with the sound you already have. And then Chongor, who films for me, actually creates drum sounds with it. I have too, so it's got a lot of uses. And by the way, you can do snares with it too, and toms, whatever you want to do. And it's got some great presets if you want to start that way. But this and this and this little section here is where the money is. All right? See you next time.
You'll know our guest by his signatures, which are hit records and his cool as hell voice. Please welcome to the place, Harmony Samuels.
What's up, bro?
How are you, man?
What's up,
Dave,
man?
how you doing, man? Good to be here again.
Oh, man, great to see you.
You know, part of what I always want when I see you to ask you to do is go Bond, James Bond.
Because I'm British, right?
Right. Well, I just want to be able to use that accent.
Yeah, man. It doesn't always work.
I know, I understand. So, we're in week 2 of an incredible release.
Yes, sir.
Janet Jackson
Yes, sir.
and Daddy Yankee record done
Yes,
by
sir.
Your Can't.
Made for now.
You know what's interesting to me is, and we had this discussion about 8 months ago with the Despacito producers.
Yes, sir.
Reggaeton can just make a record go good, can it?
Yeah.
Tell me what the impact of it is.
I just feel like the fun and the freedom that comes with it allows you to just not care and detach from everything. You know, even if it is for that 3-minute moment, you know what I mean, in your car or in the club or just with your friends in the house, like that rhythm and that excitement, that party. And you know, it's funny because I said, you know, the Latina reggaeton, the Afro beats, and the Caribbeans, they're all the same. They just use different instruments. You know, the Africans in their talking drums, and their bongos, and Latinas with their pans, and in the Caribbeans with their steel pans and the drum set. So. But they all play in the same tempos. They all use that same like rhythm.
Yeah.
Some of it is slower. You know, the slower it is, the more Afrocentric it becomes. The quicker it is, the more Latina it becomes. And but that pattern brings a sense of joy, and it actually unites people. And that's partly why I did that for Janet. Because when I met her about 12 months ago, about 12, 14 months ago, a young A&R, her A&R is a friend of mine called JQ from London. He used to be in a boy group and, transitioned into being in A&R. And saw him at the Clive Davis event, and he called me and said, hey, we need to talk. And I was like, man, I ain't seen you in 10 years. Talk about I mean, I guess we got a lot to talk about.
Right.
And he's like, no, something specific. And he calls me and he says, I want us to do Janet. I was like, Janet who? Janet Orlando?
Right. Yeah.
Because it ain't Janet Jackson.
Right, exactly.
He's like, yeah, Janet Jackson, I'm A&R'ing for her. I'm going to head A&R for Rhythm Nation, which is her label.
Yeah.
And I said, excuse me?
Wow.
Firstly, explain how that came about.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, back and forth, I said, yes, definitely, no hesitation, I'm going to do it.
Sure.
I said, what's funny was when I first moved to LA and I was under the tutelage of Rodney Darkchild Jerkins, she was actually in the studio while I was in the back, looking around the corner like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And fast forward 7 years, I'm now producing multiple records for her on a new EP. Yeah. So moving forward, we went into the studio. We had our first meeting. So from the call to meeting her, which was just before she went on tour, it was about 3 months. Mm-hmm. And so in between there, you start to doubt, like, maybe this is going to happen. It's not good. Right, yeah. So we go in and we finally meet. It was a movie to get to meet her. And when we finally got to meet her, it felt like a scene from a movie where, you just don't know what's going to take place, and there's like this eerie sound going. It's like she comes in gracefully as the star she is, legend, and so softly spoken. It was like, hi, who's Harmony? And I was like, oh, me. She was like, oh, your birthday's May 16th. And I was like, how you know that? She was like, my birthday's May 16th. And I was like, great connection.
Keep going.
No, and so as we sat down and spoke, I said, what do you want? What do you want this record to be about? And, she was like, I want it to be about us. And I said, us? She was like, the people. I want it to be about everyone. I want it to unify. I want it to be about love. I want it to be about togetherness and unity and passion and joy and fun, energy and dance. And the world, basically, is what she wrapped it up in. And I was like, okay, no pressure.
Yeah, no.
You just want me to bring 8 billion people together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was the production conceived before you got Daddy Yankee, or was Daddy Yankee always a part in the production evolved around Daddy Yankee? He was the missing piece. You play those puzzle games, and you got that one piece, and he was that missing piece. And even how we got to Daddy Yankee, the discussions that led up to Daddy Yankee. Yeah, Daddy Yankee was put on maybe 60 days before the record came out.
Okay. I was going to ask what the time was.
It was very fresh to when the record came out. This actual idea actually started from us doing a writing camp. So we go in the studio, we have a 10-day block out. And, I pulled a lot of my friends who I've worked with before. I had a couple of songwriters. Sean Butler is a new writer from Philly, who I'd done a lot of work with before. Varen Wade is from London, who I've done a lot of work with from Fifth Harmony. And, Al Sharad, we did The Way with Ariana Grande. We did Fantasia's Without Me. And, so I pulled those guys, Tommy Parker, we both were signed to Rodney Jerkins together, and he was working heavily with Janet too. Also has a great relationship with Austin, which is Janet's nephew. So we call him the Missing Jackson because he sounds and acts just like them and can actually mimic them amazingly. So he was the added factor to the camp. So we knew our demos were going to sound real close. Right. So we're like 3 songs in, and we're strong. We're strong. We got some really great songs coming. And I'm walking around the studio, pacing, saying, I got to find something.
Something's missing.
And it's like, yo, man, what's up? Like, what are you looking for? And I'm like, I just got to find something. There's something, she needs to do something that she's never done before. We got to touch something that the whole world will say, wow. And this is great. This is strong. This is powerful. This has got a lot. It's not the world. We still got to work. So, I go home and, in my car, I listen to a lot of global music. And I'm like, you know what she needs? I start going through her playlist of big records. And what I noticed is that she had done everything but that. She hadn't done anything real cultural, that heavy. She had touched on stuff, but she never literally just like slammed it. And I said, that's what we're going to do. It was perfect for the season because I said Afrobeats music And the Latina, you know, reggaeton is coming real full steam ahead right now. Like Despacito, you know.
One Dance was the most streamed song on Spotify.
Listen, crazy. And, you know, I've worked with Wiz, that's my little brother. I love the kid. He's a genius in his own right. And, you know, and I've also been involved in the Afrobeats world. You know, Tiwa Savage, who's like, you know, humongous Nigerian female star, the biggest female Nigerian act in Africa right now. I started her career with her first 2 huge records, and she was a songwriter here who worked on Fantasia Records, and you know, and when she got frustrated with trying to be an artist here, she just said, you know what, I'm just going back home, I'm gonna try it there, and then she was like, I need you to do me a favor, just give me a couple tracks, and next minute she was on a Pepsi can. But that's her story, and so I knew, and then fast forward a few years, I'd done a record for Destiny's Child, Michelle Williams, Kelly Rowland, and Beyonce called Say Yes. And that had, if you listen to them both back to back, you were like, oh, you can see the similarities in the West African drums, but there was still a pop universal thing around it, you know what I mean? Especially with the chorus. So,
and then Beyonce girl, what happened to her? She just disappeared, or?
What do you mean?
No, I'm just
I guess that's
He couldn't remember her name, so I mean,
when you're that big, it's problematic. Now, in the process, what is your process creatively? Do you play? Do you write? What do you play? What do you work on?
Man, it's as I've gotten older. So when I was younger in the studio working, it was about going in there and producing the meanest tracks you could ever produce. You know, when I was 21 years old and was trying to prove a point, I'm gonna be the next Timberland, the next Pharrell, and I was in there. Fast forward 10 years, it's a spiritual thing for me. And when I mean a spiritual thing for me is I don't go in the studio to create tracks. I actually listen. I spend most of my time listening to music, to the environment, to the temperature of the earth, to what people are saying, what people are talking about. And so with this one, so a lot of my songs come from conversation, come from a question, you know what I mean? They're spiritually asking like, what is it you want me, I need you to just kind of show me something right now. And that's how this one came about. I walked around my house that morning after I realized that was where I was gonna go. I walked around my house that morning kind of like, God, I need you to kind of like show me something. And I'm in the shower, and I promise you, with my hand on my heart, unborn children, I heard that guitar line. It was like, doo, 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 doo. And I literally opened my eyes in the shower like, no way. And I jump out like, and I look for my phone because I'm like, you don't want to forget that, right? So I'm like, sing the line. So I sing the line, and I'm singing it back to myself, and I'm playing it back, and I'm like, and I'm hearing it, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like goosebumps, and I'm like weirded out.
The first time I heard that record, I just rewound the first 4 bars. I never got to
It's captivating.
About 12 times. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I wasn't completely sure it was real. It was so tight and just the sound of it.
That's my man JV on that one. So, I mean, we rushed to I literally rushed the studio, and I'm calling JV, and for those who don't know JV, Edgar JV Etienne is an incredible musician, producer, has worked on a plethora of records with me, from Machine Gun Kelly to this record. Plays amazing guitar, can produce his butt off, incredible engineer, and actually is one of the first producers I've ever allowed to work next to me. My whole career I've worked myself, but it was just a synergy between us that, you know, the Batman Robin type of thing. And I'd gotten so busy and so like heavily, like so much going on. You know, I started my own label, I had my own artists. I was kind of like managing some of them and spending more time being an executive than just being a producer. And to have someone that you could start an idea, throw it to, he could finish it. He started an idea, throw it to me, and I could finish it. It was just an incredible, like it just felt like LeBron and D Wade, Michael Jordan, and you know what I mean, Scott Pippen. It was that's the relationship. You know what I mean? Dave and her. But
Dave
you know,
and Chongo.
and
I mean,
you
Herb
just-
and Dave, sorry.
You know what I mean?
No.
And knowing that he's a great musician, but he understands engineering, but he loves technology. It's just an incredible fuse, man.
What I like about all the guitar parts on all your records, we're going to talk about another one in a second. But a lot of people think electric guitars are a separate, complete instrument than acoustics.
Right.
Acoustics tend to be more a rhythmic instrument, but the electric guitar is not about the note; it's about the tone, the sound, and the sound of that guitar. It's primal.
Yeah.
It just goes right through you.
When I got to the studio, you know, he's the first one I call. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna hit Chuck. Chuck is my engineer, and I'll be like, yo, find JV for me. And JV
Quickly.
comes in, he quick.
Yeah.
I'm like, quick, and I'm like, I've got this idea, so I start singing it, and he starts playing it, and I said, okay, stop. You're Haitian, right? He said, yeah. I need you to go to the depths of Haiti right now.
I mean, like voodoo.
Like voodoo.
Like voodoo.
Like
Yeah,
every
like
cooking
go.
your mother has cooked,
That's right.
everything.
That's right.
You need to, and I mean, he started chomping at that thing.
There
And,
you go.
and it's tone, because he found it. He looked for, even after he played it with a certain tone, I know he spent a few weeks going over that tone. You know what I mean? And I was like, what you doing? He's like, I'm still looking for the tone. And, you know, he added and layered and, you know, he chopped. And even with the guitars, he didn't just play them locked in. He quantized a little bit and he shifted
what I
a
was
little
hearing.
bit. And
I couldn't tell what I was
You know what I
hearing.
mean? But then I layered it with another sound that was it was a guitar sample from Splice.
Is that legal? Guitar players, we don't allow that.
Trust me.
You guys let me down over
Turned
there.
out okay.
It
So far.
turned out great.
It turned out all right. Absolutely.
And because the tone was so amazing, but there was something in the bottom, like an effect that I wanted it to have. And so I played it, and it was kind of like it was rubbing against each other. So you get this little
It sounded amazing.
and so it just created, just that sound alone created so much like joy. You know what I mean? Just those four notes. Dun, 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 and it's on a loop. And I added the kick, I added the snare. The rest is history, man. And the craziest part was in the writing camp, I kept telling everyone, because it was like the 5th track on the list. I said, that's the one. And they were like, you sure? Like, because this song
Did
is
you hold
great.
a writing camp in a stadium or something? Because there's 9 writers on that damn song.
No.
9 writers harmony.
I mean, no, we didn't have it in the stadium. We had it at London Bridge Studios. We did have a lot of writers around. The main writers were Varen, Sean, Sherrod, and Tommy. Those were the main writers, including myself. Janet and Uncle Randy. You know, it's a political game.
No question.
And no disrespect, and out of respect for them, she is a legend, and she deserves to be involved because she firstly planted the seed of what she wanted to go. Number 2, she also was very instrumental on driving it to where it needed to, because you couldn't give that record to just anybody.
Right.
Uncle Randy came in, you know, the second verse actually is an extended verse from the first. If it is the first verse and the second verse, there's an extended piece. Uncle Randy was the one who kind of like influenced us to kind of like add more to it. Like, so they played advisory parts and they weren't physically hands-on, but their minds were involved, and we made changes according to them. And I just feel like anyone who plays that type of role creatively should be involved because they're just as instrumental. So that's why there's so many names there.
As a musician, what all do you play? What do you go to as you're writing? Keyboard?
It depends. Man, I'm so strange. Like, it might be a beatbox, it might be a melody. I might just have a bunch of harmonies that I'm singing. Sometimes, a lot of the time it's piano, or sometimes I just pull out a bass and start chomping on the bass. Sometimes it's just a groove with no music. It really is that's why I say it's a spiritual thing. It's whatever the idea comes first, and then you start building around it.
But you let the idea guide you to the instrument.
You gotta do that, man. It starts here, man. Well, it starts here and here. And this is the technology, and this is the passion right there, and it's the feeling. And when you can lock those two in without touching the instrument, all you got to figure out is how to get it out your hands. And that's kind of why, you know, building the village that I built, and I call it the village because, you know, there's no way I could have done that record by myself. You know what I mean? You know, after we wrote the record with such an incredible team, you know, we had to find that balance because there's a lot going on. If I was to break it down, like it's me singing, everybody move your body, that's me doing it, you know what I mean? But there's also like a vocal going, and it's poking in and out. You know what I mean? As we use the pumper to kind of like poke in and out whenever there's a breath or a space between.
Gives another rhythm.
Which gives it another rhythm. And then the hats in itself is like, you know, we've got trap hats and, you know, tribal hats going at the time. So we use trap hats and we use them like, and then we go, you know what I mean? And it's like, we're kind of like fusing so many worlds just because we want so many people to get it. You know what I mean? And so you can lose everybody in that production if it's too noisy. Right. So, you know, it took a team of us to really learn to really help contain it. You know what I mean? And she layered the producers off that. I mean, maybe 20 vocals or just layering the chorus. And then we still got the crowd, which was another 30 layers of vocals. And, you know, there's so many like hidden noise that sounds going on. The reverb's kind of like clashing and like, and we have to contain those to not distract you from what's going on with Janet, because her voice is very light. Very light. And she's not changing that for anybody, which, I mean, that's her signature. So how do you put that energy and that aggressive pounce?
See, that's what I always thought was the genius of Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
Is if you just turn his stuff up, but then just go into the track and listen to what's going on underneath. He has got a subway full of things going on and little things, and you're grooving the things you don't even realize why you're grooving. Right. There's yells and there's so many things, right?
It's tucked away.
And then it somehow comes out simple. And it works pop and black and every other thing that it's an amazing level of genius to do that.
And Dr. Dre is one of my biggest influences, you know? Like how he's managed to like have some of the most amazing sounding records.
Now,
regardless of how gangsta it is.
Here's a key question for you. Is there a difference between producing fifth harmony or fourth harmony?
There's a big difference.
Big difference.
Huge
by
difference.
one.
Huge difference by one.
Well, what the correlation to the silly question is, and I want to talk about, you know, when you choose to have a production company, a camp, it means that you as the head of it, and you described it earlier, people don't realize how many different things are going on that you have to deal with. Because you like artist development, you like finding talent, you end up doing business affairs, you still have to go in the studio, and kind of like in the old school days, you really become a director as much, but you're also a player. Then you're inspired and so forth. So when you have a lot going on, you have to situate your head in such a way that you can then adjust to an artist. And the artist politics and manage through that. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir. It's very much fair.
And it's a load, but you're also building something that allows you to creatively express yourself because people know your vision. Is that a fair description?
That's definitely a fair description. And you know, the thing about where I'm at in my career, you know, I've been that lonesome producer who just wanted to make beats and, you know, sit in a room and make tracks all day. And then there was a point where I just grew out of sitting behind, you know, a mixing board, playing with sounds, shooting in the dark. I realized it was like, it's a relationship. I'm never gonna know what Beyonce really wants. You know what I'm saying? I gotta take 100 shots at that. But if I get out and meet and make those relationships, that will allow, you know what I'm saying? It will allow me to shoot more direct and specific. With the artist development side of things, I think after I did Ariana Grande, And it was like I executive produced that first album. Mind you, you know, the story behind that is that album, well, the songs that I did weren't for Ari, they were for Jordan Sparks. Especially The Way was a Jordan Sparks single that was not taken by the label at the time. 18 months later after that, you know, Ari pops up in my studio and she jumps through the roof and she just knew. She knew what she wanted, she knew what she needed, and she knew that song was for her. And the rest is history. Going into the next album, you know, Max, who's another influence of mine, is a genius. He took over that whole album, and I was a little bit, you know, offended.
Sure.
Because, you know, I'd worked so hard to help create. This sound wasn't created for Ari. The sound was created with another intent, and we gave it to an artist, and then it was almost like, thanks, and now we don't need you no more.
Yeah.
And so I had spent a few months kind of like working my way out of that, because it was kind of like, I was rough to kind of like be like, 1 minute this happened and then next minute it's like almost dismissed, right?
Yeah.
And it was a really depressing time, and then I realized like, yo, man, I created that sound. I could do it again and again and again and again. And this time I wanted to do it my own personal artist. I wanted to find the talent that I really wanted to find, and I wanted to develop it, and I wanted to give him that special sound. And I felt like it was, you shouldn't have to be signed to a major label and have all these numbers on your Instagram for someone to see talent and invest in it.
Thank you, Jesus.
And
just say
you know,
that again. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I just think it's rough for those special kids who have the amazing talent. And you know, what I've noticed with talented people is because they're so talented, that's what they're focused on. They're not focused on being social.
Right.
So it's very hard for them to capitalize on both realms. And for us to sit here and say, well, you don't have enough numbers on your social media, so
Craziest
we're
thing
not
ever.
going to develop you.
They get it.
And that's what I felt like we lacked. So I jumped in head first, and Pensado Place was the first place that we allowed my first artist that I signed, called Major, who is now,
Major.
he's a gold selling artist. And you know, thank you both, David and Herb, for allowing Major to be on your platform. That was the first kind of like official BOE artist that we put out. He put out a single called Why I Love You a year after that, which is gold now, and 67 million views, over 100 million streams. He's doing incredibly well, and I'm very, very proud of him. He's about to debut his first album from his EP this summer, this fall, September 7th. Even more majors coming out, and we're very, very excited for him. His single "Better With You In It" is. It's a very, like, we call it like Trap King Cole, because because the beat is so trap on it, but yet there's such a classic Nat King Cole vibe going on around it, and he wears it very, very well.
Oh, I remember coming, you invited me over to the studio, and we were talking about the first award show, and he had a few of his artists perform for me there. Just get up and sing, just put on the track and sing. And it actually changed the format of the award show. And I was like, well, let's feature your production company and bring a couple artists through as opposed to one. It was super cool.
Yeah, man. It was actually one of the biggest first time that I was like, yeah, this is, you know, that was the first time that I was like, yeah, I'm doing the right thing.
Go ahead.
So we've been talking about all the success, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the other side. Let's go back to 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
You were thinking about cashing in and
sir.
stopping, and it was a pretty low point in your life. We've all been there. The highly likelihood we're going to be there again. How did you get out of that? I know the move to LA paid off, but you were low.
Man.
We've all been there.
I'll say this.
How did you get out of that?
I say God knew for me. He was like, he knew I was at my end. And even though he had shown me signs my whole career, you know, firstly, dying at an age of 13 years old in a car accident and hearing his voice saying it ain't yet time, or, you know, stumbling amongst stars just randomly, you know what I mean? Or having a vision of like Chipmunk at a KFC and seeing him and him saying, what's up? And then not knowing each other, and then a year later, I'm producing his biggest hit. You know what I mean? Like,
but you were too American for England, and then you come to England, and
I
you're
was too British for America.
Too British.
Yeah.
I mean, that was more icing off the cake, not on the cake.
That was rough for me. That was like, well, how am I supposed to do this? You know, and I just had to learn, man. I think one of the first things I had to do was really lean into understanding that God didn't bring me here for no reason. Like, I could have met anybody, I could have been signed at any time, but for Rodney Jerkins to leave Jimmy Iovine's office and walk around to another office, Martin, and say to Martin, hey, what records are those? And my manager in that room at the time was like, oh, it's this kid called Harmony, and be like, he can't leave LA until he sees me. And then I end up signed. Like, I hadn't been signed to anyone. I had never been offered a deal at any time. That was the only deal I'd signed. You know what I mean? In 10 years of producing.
But that's what happens. And I think the lesson to the audience is you need to be active.
Yeah, man.
Like, you know, the window opens and opportunity comes through not when you expect it.
Yeah.
And you have to be ready for it.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn how to be down and how to be up.
Yep.
That's part of it.
Yep.
And it's going to follow you through your whole career. It doesn't all just sail.
I mean, it took me a while, man. Like, you understand, like, after being discovered by Rodney, I hit a wall again because I had to start again.
Right.
You know what I mean? I moved to LA, and then I'm thinking I'm gonna move into my studio and be this big time producer. And it was like, no, you're gonna be the kid no one cares about.
Yeah, had to reset.
And you're gonna work under him. And you're gonna learn to serve someone who's a great producer. And it's an experience I'm glad I had, because I would never know how to be who I am today. Like, I would never know how to hold a team together. I'd never know how to, you know, love my engineers and take care of my engineers, who are just as important, my co-producers who are just as important, my interns. Like, we take care of our interns. We care about them. We talk to them. Like, say, yo, you good? Tell me about yourself. Where you from?
Family.
You understand what I'm saying?
Ultimately.
Like, you want them to trust you, but you want to trust them, and you want a peaceful, loving home. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be at work and be like happy to see the people that are there.
Yeah, because creativity in chaos
is just
sometimes
so
you get greatness, but boy, you pay a price for it.
Someone's gonna kill you later.
Absolutely.
And I saw that.
One of the things that we see all the time is, particularly with technology, is more and more people are really hybrids of things. Yeah. You're writing and you're producing and you're composing and you're engineering and you're mixing and you're doing, because the technology allows you to. And also, what we always talk to the audience about is, don't be safe. Grab this influence from over here and that one from over there. I'm telling you, which I alluded to at the top of the show, when Chris Stapleton sang "Do Right Woman," which ultimately a woman would ordinarily sing. Do you know what I'm saying? And I watched that whole crowd at the Forum.
Yes, sir.
No call and response, which is important to Do Right Woman.
Yes, sir.
You know, there was no backgrounds answering. It was just him doing his thing. And he was influenced. If you want to see something incredible, go to YouTube and watch the Justin Timberlake, Chris Stapleton duet they did at the Country Music Awards maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that. That was strong.
Oh, sick. Was just sick.
Singing fools.
Yeah, absolutely.
Singing
so,
fools.
you know, we always encourage people, since the technology allows you to do it, is to do hybrid stuff. And you have always really respected your team. I think for Batter's Box, we should bring a couple of your guys up.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Bring them here. Should we do that? All right, so let's bring up a couple of Harmony's guys. Just kind of lean down here, get head level, because you guys are young, so your knees are good. So introduce yourself.
Jose Cardoza.
Carlos King.
Now, here's a question I have for you. Are you a UFC fighter? Because you look exactly like Mighty Mouse.
No, it's not the first time.
I mean, literally, I thought you were going to come here and give me a roundhouse kick or whatever the case may be. Tell us what, you can hold this, tell us what working in a camp where you not only can learn, but you also feel success. How's the impact been for you?
I think it's great. The impact is, you learn, the amount that you learn is incredible. And, you know, if you're open to that type of environment, then the amount that you learn is really great.
How about you?
Just kind of pick back up what he's saying. You learn a lot. You learn how to become a business person, as well as being creative and how to build relationships and all that type of stuff. It's all amazing.
Does the hybrid thing hold up where as you come up through the game, as you just alluded to, you learn more than just the one tool? You know, you're not just mixing, you're learning business, you're learning artist development, you're learning politics. Is that part of it as well, too?
Oh, definitely. Especially for me, learning how to be a business person as well as an engineer is a whole nother thing. A lot of people miss out on that, or you don't realize that you're actually a business. You're not just a creative person, which is, you know, something to be proud of. You know.
Well, I think you end up learning how to compartmentalize your head. Like sometimes you might have to be over in the politics side, then you have to shift and go into the tracking or mixing side, or you know, you might have to be alone or be in a crowd, or you know.
The good thing that we developed as a team is communication. We've learned to communicate. We're brothers now. Yeah, you know, it's, what, 6 years we run? You know, 6 years, 5 years. You know,
6+, yeah.
Yeah, 6+ years. And he came straight from school.
Oh, great.
And
Where'd you go to
intern.
school?
Dominguez Hills.
Okay, cool.
So as an intern, he interned for me for a year, and next minute he was the engineer for me. You know what I mean? He came from interning too, and now they're Grammy-nominated winning producers who worked on everything from Machine Gun Kelly, Ariana Grande. Like, they've just done incredible stuff.
Well, we're going to test the brotherhood with something called Batter's Box.
Sounds good.
Now, understand, any answer works, and if you have to be disrespectful to Harmony, that's fine too. That drives internet numbers. So, all right, Batter's Box is Dave's going to tee up, and anybody can answer. Just it's one-word answers. It's quick. Okay.
Sounds good.
DP, hit it.
Accordion. No. Vocals. I got to throw them off her. That was a curveball right there.
Slate.
Yeah, Slate.
Okay.
CO1B.
Oh, good.
Sam Cooke.
Tone.
Bass.
1176.
Loops.
Splice.
Remind me later. I got something for you. Horns.
Record them right.
Okay.
Nice.
Reverb.
What's the Slate one? Verb Suite. I forgot what it's called. The Slate.
Yeah, the
Reverb.
Bricasti one.
Yeah.
Strings.
Gordon Well. Mics, microphones.
Okay. Okay. Three of you think about this, and whoever comes first gets to answer it. But what's your favorite piece of cheap gear that you've used on a record that came out?
Quadraverb 2.
No shit.
How about you? Anything?
Plugins, pretty much. I mean, plugins can be inexpensive, especially like the Slate ones.
What about you?
Man, for that Machine Gun Kelly record that we did, what was the one you mixed?
Wake and Bake.
Wake and Bake. I used a $200 Fender.
There you go.
Damn.
Now that's a cheap.
What was the
bass.
snare on that record?
Wake and Bake?
No, Rehab.
Oh, Rehab. Oh, I mean, it's the layered snare. We layered about. We
It's
layered
the
like a
ugliest
real
snare
I know.
ever. It's so cool.
We had one person answer backwards when we said the cheapest thing that they use, and it was like rolling paper. So look, man, you know your family.
Yes, sir.
I know education is important to you, and we're
sure.
talking about some things about you potentially going down and doing a seminar,
Yes, sir.
something at a camp.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm going to come by the studio and hang out. You know, I got to check in every couple of years and see what's happening. We might bring some cameras over.
Yeah.
You are very lucky to work with that guy because he cares enough. A lot of people don't care about the family.
No, definitely.
And it's a rare thing to do. And the key is when you leave and move on, that you carry that same spirit forward.
For sure.
You
Yeah.
pay it forward. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's the whole point.
You know, you're a brother.
Yes, sir.
DP, take us home.
I'm still thinking about 2009 when Harmony hit that bump in the road, and it seems to me that there's two things that got him through. One is someone from above in the heavens, but I'm pretty sure that Quincy Jones and his respect for Quincy and how he'd studied Quincy's got him through, and that was one of his big mentors. And that's what you need to make it through. You need somebody more powerful than you, and you need somebody more talented than you, and then you rely on that relationship to get you through. It ain't gonna be easy, but the reward on the other side is pretty cool. We'll see you next week.
See you.